Hello and welcome to Paradox, Untold Stories from Athletic Directors with Dr. Danielle Lapointe and Dr. Dustin Smith. We have some crazy and unique stories for you, which are made possible by our sponsor, Wall of Fame. At the Wall of Fame, our mission is to bring your school's legacy to life. We transform school tributes to make it easier than ever to celebrate your whole community, showcasing your school's diverse history, proudest moments, and top role models. We understand that the true value of our Wall of Fame is in your content. Whether you are starting a new tribute or adding to an existing one, we give you all the resources you need to build an interactive experience and take your content to the next level. Speaking of next level, let's check in to see what Danielle and Dustin have for us today.
Hey everyone, welcome to our first guest of our third season. I believe we're around for 3 seasons. I'm very, very excited because we have Lenny Paoletti with us here today. How are you doing today, Lenny?
Doing good.
Lenny is one of my good friends, and he also for
Yeah,
those
he may not claim this,
just
so
shook his head
we'll give
no.
him a chance in a minute to debunk that statement.
So, I am really honored and excited that he is joining us today. He has been an AD for a very long time, so he should have some very good stories. He and I actually sat and served on the appeals committee together, which is where we met and have a whole bunch of crazy stories just from that alone. But he served on the AD advisory board here in Florida, the FI and AAA board, the FACA board. So he is well rounded. He is very connected, and I'm really excited to be able to feature you today, Lenny.
Well, thank you, Danielle. Was that a fat joke that I'm well rounded?
It wasn't, but I mean, if that's where we want to go. It wasn't. It wasn't. So, and obviously, Dustin, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm good. I think Lenny and I suffer from the same issue that
Me? That's the
yes.
issue.
I mean, I wasn't saying that, but yeah, we suffer from the same chronic illness of friendship with Danielle. And I'm trying to find a cure, trying to find a remedy, but I've stuck around. This is the start of year 3, so I've been around on this podcast for a while, but I'm excited just visiting with Lenny off air for a moment, and just hearing some of his stories. Lenny, the first thing I like to ask is, tell us what the resume doesn't tell us. Danielle kind of ran through quickly your well-rounded resume, your connectedness, but tell us what the resume doesn't tell us about who Lenny is.
I'm an athletic director. I mean, when you do the job, that's really all you have. 15-hour days, 6 days a week, not 4, not 5, 6 days a week. And then on Sundays, you're answering emails and text messages, and it's 24/7. I know when I arrived at my current position, I was handed an iPad, a laptop, a desktop, an iPhone, and I got the message real clear that I was going to be connected 24/7. So what do I do? In the little free time that I have, I'm a biker. I will get in my biker regalia and we'll go to bad bars and eat bad food and listen to bad music. So it's all good. And prior to that, I served in the Marine Corps. I was active duty Marine Corps for about 18 years until they kicked me out for having bad knees. So I mean, I don't know a Marine that doesn't have bad knees, but I guess mine are worse than others. So yeah, and I will just touch quickly that I've been at 23 years as a high school athletic director. All 23 years have been at combination schools, meaning 6th grade through 12th grade, and all private schools. So, and that's what my resume says.
Well, Lenny, I don't know you well, but I do know that there was a common theme. You said bad bars, bad food,
Bad music.
bad knees. Apparently, we've made bad decisions in being friends with Danielle, but
I knew
We're
that was
here
coming.
today to
I knew it.
discuss not
Bad
Danielle.
friends.
Well, one thing I want to point out for sure is we frequently talk about on this podcast, especially when Dustin gets sappy on me, is how important it is to have a good network, of ADs and support. And I am really proud that Lenny has always been one of those people for me. I think I can say vice versa. You know, he's a safe space where I could call and be like, how do I do this? Or this is how I read this bylaw. How do you read it? What if I do this? Is this a loophole? Like, we could have those conversations. And we've very frequently commented on how important that is throughout, our podcast life. So, yeah, he is that for me for sure. And I hope that everybody can find that person and have a couple of them, but the value of that and what that is, I don't want to underplay that for sure. And also thank Lenny.
I appreciate that, Danielle. I will tell you that when I moved to this area, and I've been here 10 years, and I am retiring this year, I'm going to move back home. But when I moved to this area, being the private school guy, private school guys don't usually fit in well with public school guys or public school ADs because they're completely different animals. I mean, they don't understand that I'm dealing with sixth graders. They don't understand that I have 52 teams. Not just the typical 24 teams. I mean, I have every program a public school has times two because I have a middle school component. But it's important to reach out because the only people who know what we do are other ADs. Our heads don't know, our principals don't know, our coaches have no clue what we do. They're just so in their little coaching zone. Only other ADs, and it doesn't matter what school, whether it's public or private, we all have the same heartburns. So when I first came to this area, I thought it was very important for me to reach out to all of the ADs. And the first one I reached out to was Danielle because she was at the large county seat public school. And Danielle, remember when we got together and then we I worked on the private school sectors, you worked on the public school sectors, and then once a month, all the ADs got together and we went and had lunch together and we shared stories hey, what do you do that can help me? And I mean, we had our little conferences once a month with all other ADs, and it was really a good networking. Sadly to say, since you've left and most of the ADs, they're all gone now. I mean, that has fallen away. Because if you don't do that, to your point, this is a very lonely job. Because you're so focused on the job and there is nobody else who knows what we do.
That's true. It's true. We have to stick together. So I appreciate all of, our banter over the years, and I'm excited to share your banter with the rest of the country of the world.
I remember when Lenny, you talked about being here, and you've been there for 10 years. Paint on a map for those geographically challenged where here is for you, and then where back home is, because that's a little different area for you.
Okay, so home, I'm in Bradenton, Florida, which is south of Tampa and north of Sarasota. If you've heard of IMG is in Bradenton, Florida.
Okay.
Home for me is over on the other side of the state of Florida in Brevard County, Melbourne areas, Melbourne, Cocoa Beach, Cocoa, that side of the state. When I came over here and I left my home there, which I still own, and it's paid off, so I'm excited about going back. But when I left, I had one grandchild over there. He was 4. When we return this July, he'll be 15. He'll have a car. He'll have a girlfriend. Plus, I have 7 more grandchildren. So, yeah, it's a different world, and it's time to go home. And I'll be 67. And quite honestly, nobody wants an old guy around anymore.
I do.
Oh.
Yeah. So that is very similar. It's like Lenny said, I was the high school across the street from him. So it's very similar to where I am. I'm also in Bradenton. So love it here.
Yeah, do you remember, Danielle, when we went to lunch at one of our favorite barbecue places called Pig Out, and you were in your shirt, I was in my shirt, and the waitress came in and said, "Are you allowed to do this?"
Yeah. They're surprised we were hanging out.
They were surprised that we were hanging out and having lunch together.
Yeah.
Now, I was really nervous because you were also pregnant at that time, and I didn't want any misinformation to get out there. But
Yeah, it is. It's funny how the outside people view that, just because we're at, rival high schools or, different types of high schools doesn't mean that we can't still professionally collaborate. It's silly to me. And I think that's a common theme across the country. We've heard that before, right, Dustin?
Yeah, we've heard that. Um,
Hmm.
the crazy thing to me is just the AD world. As lonely as it is on your campus, it's not a lonely profession. It may be lonely on your campus, but because of the networks that we've built and because of the connections we made and because the people understand exactly what we're going through, that bond, I think, is really pretty special just because you have that. It doesn't matter if it's Maine, it doesn't matter if it's Washington State or if it's Bradenton, Florida, just across the street. That network is important, and
Hmm.
it's a bond that is. I mean, they just understand what you're going through. They just know the hours that you're putting in, as you said earlier, those six days a week, 15, 16 hours straight sometimes, especially when you start getting into the spring and all those games that are going on and dealing with weather and trying to change schedules and all that. The AD profession is a great profession. It's maybe lonely on your campus, but not the profession as a whole.
Hmm.
But I will tell you that because you spend so much time in the job, doesn't allow much time for your social life. I mean, we can all count our true friends on one hand, and it's just, it's tough. I mean, and it's really tough because you know, it's just coaches and parents. Everybody thinks you've got a million friends
Right.
Hmm.
because everybody knows you, but they all know you because of your position.
Hmm.
They don't necessarily know you at all. I mean, I don't think probably three-quarters of the people who know me know that I ride motorcycles on weekends. I bet they don't know that.
I knew.
I remember pulling up one day I was in my biker regalia and I pulled up to a traffic light and I noticed one of my families was at the stoplight next to me. So I'm beeping the horn and waving at him, and the mother rolled up the windows and pulled her children away from the windows like I was a scary person. And of course, I had my helmet on, so I couldn't, they couldn't see who I was. But I'm like, okay, I'm a scary person. Um,
Mm.
but anyway,
See, those are the stories I'm here for. Give me some more stories.
oh, some more stories. You talk about the famous swimming story. Uh, you know, we have a great swim team, and had a young man who had Crohn's, and was suffering from it, and it was just it's not a good disease to have in swim. He was always having to get in and out of the pool. It's just, and then remember the time you saw us at a swim meet, and again I'm dealing with sixth graders. And they come running up, right? And the little sixth graders, as they will, they'll come up. They're happy to see you, and they grab hold of your leg and give you a hug. And you're like, none of my high school kids do that.
No, I thought you were running an illegal operation because that child was in kindergarten for sure. There was no. I
No,
was like, "What are you doing over there that allows you to have kindergartners swimming?"
I will say everything we do is in accordance with Florida high school policies and regulations. If Danielle knows one thing, she knows I'm very anal about all of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
I was just teasing you because that's
I
something.
know, I know. You
He had
just
all of these little swimmers all over the pool deck, and I was like, "What are we doing? This is there. Are they even old enough to be in school?" Like, it was crazy, crazy how
well,
young they were.
there's a great design, because if you're a combination school, sixth graders and above can participate, and that means you can fill every event with 8 swimmers. which means you're going to score points in every event. And I mean, they might all finish 5 through 8, but you've scored points, which means you're going to eventually win the
Hmm.
swim meet just because the number of participants. So, oh yeah. So now I will say to all my public school counterparts out there, doesn't mean we have an advantage by the time they get to high school, because the typical middle schooler changes their sport every year. So it's not like we're training a swimmer to be a great swimmer by the time they get the ninth grade, because they'll swim one year, the next year they'll do softball, the following year they'll do lacrosse. By the time they get to ninth grade, we got the same kid you have. No
That's
advantage.
interesting. That's interesting. I don't know if I've ever thought of it that way.
Yeah, because they're middle schoolers. They don't know what they want to do.
Well, sixth graders at that. I mean, when you talk to a sixth grader, it's hard enough to get a senior to know what they want to do. But when you get a sixth grader, it's a whole different mindset. And sometimes at that point, it's what mom wants them to do or dad wants them to do, and it may not be what
True.
they want to do or what their passion is. So I can just imagine you showing up with sixth graders ready to swim, and here for an event. But like you said, you can score a lot of points because they're in an event. And that's why, like with track, they start limiting your entries just so you can't just pile up points. Just by having people fog a mirror. Basically, they got to be
Right,
able to run
right.
or compete.
And swimmers, they do that too. I mean, they limit each swimmer to 4 events. But if you got 40 something kids on our swim team like we do, you're going to still fill four kids on every event. I
Right.
mean, there's an advantage to numbers. Now, to that point, we don't have that in the high school. Our school, we have 240 kids, 9 through 12. So, Danielle, you once told me you had 75 people tried out for your basketball team.
Mhm.
We don't cut anybody from our basketball team. Anybody that
Mhm.
comes out for basketball makes the team,
Yeah.
because our numbers are so small in the high school.
It's interesting because it's a different set of problems when you look at it. That was one of the things I really like talking to Lenny about, because our hardships and like what we were trying to challenges were similar but very different at the same time. And I just found that to be fascinating, but also really powerful when you like get to connect and figure out like what's the right thing to do. I remember, during simple stuff like hurricanes, Lenny would be like, "What are you doing at your football
Wait, did
game?"
you just say a hurricane? Simple stuff.
Yeah, simple stuff. Simple
Okay.
stuff. What are you gonna do with your Friday night football game when the hurricane, closes schools and stuff? Like that's something that we deal with annually, but it helps, absolutely. Like this is what the public schools are doing. This is why we're doing it. This is how we're doing it. I had to fill out this form to the FHSAA. I didn't have to fill out a form to the FHSAA. Sharing that type of information during those times is really important.
Yeah, and for private school, we deal with a lot of international students. In public schools in Florida, you can't. You get
Hmm.
them for 1 year, and then that's it. I'll have an international student for 6 years, 7 years, and every year I have to recertify them over and over and over again. But yet you have to deal with non-traditional students, and I don't have to deal with non-traditional students. So it's different headaches, but the same job.
Yep. And we define too, anybody who's listening, a non-traditional student would be somebody who doesn't attend your school. They don't physically sit their butt in your chairs during the school day. So that would be whether they attend the virtual school or they attend homeschool or a school down the street now with Florida's new policies. But that is what we would define a non-traditional student in Florida. So that might be something that other states share and some that don't. I don't know if that's the way it is for you too, Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking seat time, actually in the seat.
Hmm.
I mean, we have a homeschool option. Obviously, you have virtual academy where people can
Hmm.
do it online, and that was made more readily available probably because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think the perspective that Lenny brings to the table and that Lenny brought to the appeals committee is important because he's looking at it from a private school mindset, just what his viewpoint and his lens. But he also made a statement early that said, we abided by every rule. And I think that's important obviously, if you're going to be sitting on the appeals committee, that you better abide by every rule because you're going to hold everybody else accountable to that in that situation.
I used to tell my coaches, these are the rules and we're going to abide by every one. And I don't care what other schools are doing. We're going to do it. Because I sit on the appeals committee, because I sit on the committee, the athletic directors committee, I can't plead ignorance. Plus, we've been very, very successful during my 10 years. And if we want the public schools to continue to play us like most of them do in all our sports, we have to abide by the rules. I do know there are public schools out there that recruit like crazy. I know there are. We don't, and we can't. Tuition for us is very high. And I don't know how I could recruit a student to come to this school and then tell them, now you got to pay us, $30,000. I mean, I don't know how you do that. That's
athletic
just
scholarships, Lenny. That's how you do it. Athletic scholarships.
Yeah, we don't do that either.
Yeah,
but
you can't do that. By the way, you cannot do that. It's bad.
Yeah, you can't do that in Florida. And when we don't allow anybody to participate in our programs unless they attend our school full time. So no homeschoolers, no online students, nothing. You're either a student here from 8 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or you don't play here.
Yep.
And for us, 89% of our families pay full tuition. So that's a big ask.
Now, I want to know, hearing some of these things, I do know of some of them already, but I want to hear like your craziest story. What is the thing that happened since you've been 80 where you're like, did that just happen? Is that actually real? That's what I want to hear.
I mean, Danielle, my head is so full of many of them. I mean,
we've heard that. We've heard it's hard to pick.
So let me share one real quick. This happened. I try to communicate with all of my families.
I think that might be the best way to start a story. This happened.
This happened. And I try to communicate. I think I over communicate to all of my families. Because you want them to have the information out there so you don't have to answer it on the other side. Why didn't you tell us, right? So I over communicate. Danielle knows this, I actually had an email the other day blasting me why I didn't tell them. Why doesn't their child know when tryouts were? Why didn't they know when the seasons were? Why don't they know where to go? Why? Yeah, bang, bang, bang. My communication is terrible. She's not received one. Went on and on and on. The kicker is she was replying to my email that I sent to her with all that information.
Did you point that out when you responded? Were you like, well, ma'am?
So when I replied, I just cut and pasted my email below. Now, if I had been mean or nasty, I would have said, please scroll down. But I didn't do that because that's not who I am. I try to be pleasant. But the fact that she was responding to my email with all the information that I provided to answer her questions. But look, I get parents are busy, right? They are extremely, extremely busy. And they don't take the time to read any emails. And I'm sure I'm not the only AD who thinks that.
So are you preaching patience right now? Is that what you're going for on this one? Patience is important in the AD seat?
Patience is extremely, not just with parents. I mean, with the students, with the coaching staff, especially the new coaches, right? You get these new coaches who think they're going to win a state title. And there's no talent on that team for them to even get out of the district. But they're gung ho, and they're gonna buy all kinds of paraphernalia to wear because they're so bought in and so excited. And then they go 0-15, and you have to find a way to keep that coach plugged in. We all know how difficult it is right now to find coaches. Since the pandemic, it's been brutal to find coaches. And then after 1 or 2 years, why am I doing this? It's just so that's one of the hardest parts of this job, I think, is to keep coaches engaged, especially if they're not having a successful season. I will tell you a story that 10 years ago when I got here, our girls basketball team had a total of 5 wins in the previous 5 years combined. And I thought to myself, well, that's going to be the easiest team to fix, right? It only takes 5 people to play the game. No, 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 no. Now, I will say, year 7, we did get to the state final 4. But it took all that time to train those. Now, here you go, public schools. We did train those middle schoolers up, and they did stay at the school, and they did become better basketball players for it. But it was a painful 7 years to get to that point. The other thing is public school ADs and coaches don't understand at private schools. We don't retain the kids every year. You coach at my school, because tuition being what it is, you're looking at your roster planning next year, and all of a sudden the next year rolls around, half those kids aren't here anymore. There's a lot of thoughts by the parents who think, okay, they gave my child all the tools they need to be successful in public school, and now I can go buy my BMW. So it's hard for coaches, and that's why it's hard for us to retain quality coaches, because the roster does change so much. Besides, your seniors who are graduating, your 10th grader may not come back. It's just tough.
Yeah, something that could happen completely out of your control, and that family can no longer afford tuition or come back, or they move, or whatever the reason would be. Yeah, for sure. I do think you have some nice flexibility though in private schools with some coaching stuff and retaining, and what the stuff that you're able to do with some of your coaches, where it's much more rigid in a public school, where this is what the salary, this is what the stipend is, this is what it makes, and I can't really do much on that. So there are definitely pros and cons, I think, to both sides of all of it.
Well, I think at a small school, my stipends don't compare to your stipends when you were at a public school. I mean, we're on the lower end. But I've spoken to some other private school where they don't pay stipends. They pay coaches by the hour, and they were paying coaches $30 an hour. And I thought, wait a minute, you're paying your basketball coach $10,000? Have you figured out I mean, I can't do that. I mean, could you imagine? Does anybody else out there pay their coaches by the hour?
You're going to get an influx of basketball coaches emailing you saying, which schools do that so I can go apply there? Yeah.
And and this AD kept trying to convince me it was cheaper to do it that way, or that you were at least paying the coaches for their time appropriately, because
argue with that.
and I will tell you, at every school that I've been the AD, we've had a set stipend scale. If you're a head coach, you got paid the same amount regardless what sport you coached. And my thought on that process was, the seasons are the same length. You're dealing with, you should be a professional and know your X's and O's. Every professional varsity coach should be watching video. They should be scouting the opponent. They should be training their kids appropriately. So they're doing all the same set skills. Now, I used to hear from football coaches, yeah, but we do so much more. No, not if you're a really good basketball coach. You're doing everything a football coach is doing. Well, we'll have more kids. You'll have more kids, which means you need more help. You need more assistant coaches. You don't necessarily need more money. So that was the way I've always done it. And what happens is, you get really quality coaches at the minor sports, the golf coaches, the tennis coaches, the cross country coaches. You get really good coaches at that level. And then the coaches are not competing with each other. Hey, you're getting $10,000. I'm getting a $2,000 stipend. They don't compete. So now we all know we're all in the same boat. We're treating exactly the same way. Nobody's getting paid. Nobody's getting rich. So
Nobody's
they
getting
actually,
paid. We're all getting screwed together.
they're all root for each other. Again, that's my own personal thought. I just, a professional thought. I just think a high quality golf coach is doing the same amount of time that a high quality football coach is doing. And I know you're going to get a lot of feedback about that, but look, we've won many state titles in golf. We've won many state titles in tennis. I know what those coaches are doing.
But you can also say that, Lenny, because July's coming for you. So you don't have to be in that seat for much longer. So, you can say whatever you want to say. But I think you made a statement that makes a ton of sense. You said high quality. And it doesn't matter the sport, and it doesn't matter the profession, to be honest with you. If you've got high quality people doing whatever they're doing, they're going to put in time. And they're going to do what it takes to be successful. And a lot of people will say they want to be successful, but not a lot of people want to pay the price it takes to be successful. And that golf coach putting in countless hours, I think golf's got it great because they only play during the daylight. They can't play at night. So they put their time in during the daylight hours. But basketball, it's an evening sport. You're playing games at night. And so there's trade-offs for no matter what the position is. But I want to bring awareness to the words you said of high quality. And that doesn't matter if you're a coach or if you're an AD or if you're a bank president. It doesn't matter. If you're a high quality, you're going to put in time. And everybody can gripe about time. They can gripe about, I spent this much time doing this. And I always tell my coaches, you signed the contract just like I did. You knew what you were getting into. Here it is. We didn't pull any wool over your eyes. We're not surprising you here. But I do know a lot of them will use as an excuse. Well, I put in more time than this person. That may not be the case. You don't see what goes on whenever it's not game day.
And I think, look, we're the only profession where somebody keeps a scorecard. I mean, so the coach that doesn't put in that time, it will show.
Yeah.
I mean, because they won't have the wins a lot. They won't have the wins. And the kids won't stay in the program. It's only the coaches who do put that time in who get the results. Unless they're just lucky. But I remember when I coached collegiately, and I coached collegiate soccer, and I was making $24,000 a year, and I was coaching women's soccer. Plus, I had a coach in the off season, men and women's tennis, $24,000 a year. The head football coach was getting six figures, and I'm like, "What's the deal here?" The basketball coach was making twice what I was making, only because they were different sports. For soccer, I had more people on my roster than basketball had, but I didn't understand it, in 23 years I still don't understand it. It's for the quality, right? Quality and time. But I love the comment you just made about Friday nights. And I love Friday night football, right? It is the biggest social event that we do every year. We all know that. Having Friday night football. It's great. Families will come out, kids will attend a school where you have a successful football program. But my tennis courts, my softball field, and my baseball field do not have lights. And every year my coaches say, "When are we getting lights?" And my answer is always the same: never. Not as long as I'm the athletic director, because all that means is that I'm going to be here. at 7 o'clock at night. Because if I put up lights, you will play at 7. Right now, you have to play at 4. I get to be home by 6. So is it about me sometimes? Absolutely. The spring season, I get to take a break, except we have lacrosse. So lacrosse plays under the lights. That's the one thing that I think most people don't understand about our position. We do have to attend the games.
I was just gonna say
Go ahead.
you're talking about a thing that I feel really passionate about, and just AD burnout, right? It's real, and lots of times, people are, it's for the kids, it's for the kids. I'm gonna do whatever I can do for the kids, and I agree with that. But I also agree with self-preservation and what you need to do to in your school, your situation, to not only make it good for the kids, but also make it so you can continue to be there. Um, and I do think that's a very delicate balance that some people are kind of nervous to talk about sometimes, because you don't want to seem like you're too far one way, right? So
Right.
I really applaud you for even saying that and thinking that, because it is definitely something where, you know, with that we need to be like, are we capable of adding another sport? Are we capable of adding this? Are we capable of doing this? Do we have the resources necessary to make this successful? That's a very important question. I think gets left out sometimes.
I tell people all the time when they ask me what being an AD is like, I always say, come July 1, I feel like I get on a treadmill and it's set on high, and I don't get off that treadmill until May 31st. And I just feel like I'm running on that treadmill, trying to just stay current with everything. And that from all the different
Mhm.
programs we have to run to keep everything up to date, or now with online ticketing, and then you got Max Preps, and you got Home Campus, and then your own school portals, and then the websites. I mean, it's absurd what you have to stay on top of, and then now live streaming everything is just what takes up our time. You get into this position for the to be with the kids. I never see the kids anymore. I don't get to be with the kids. I sit in this little box here and I stare at a screen, and some of the people here call me the Wizard of Oz. I'm the guy behind the curtain. I pull all the levers, but I'm never seen except when it's game day and I'm out there. But it's sad that we lose that connection with the kids. Yeah, the superstars, but you don't get to know the other kids who are struggling because you just never see them anymore.
Well, I think you
Yeah.
make an outstanding point, Lenny, that and Danielle both, and I hate to say that that
Ah,
Danielle made a great point, but I think part of this is the three of us can tell you that AD burnout is real because of the hours, because of the staring at the screen, sitting in the box, and doing all the time that is involved with that. The problem, in my opinion, is not that we're not aware of that. It's that our bosses aren't aware of that, and the community is not aware of that
yep.
because they see the games and they just expect it to go on, and they expect to see you at the games, and they don't realize that they may be there once a week. Well, you're there for every
Hmm.
sport, for every game that they have, and so burnout is real. And then throw on top of it not just attendance at games and being at the office, but all the stuff that goes behind the scenes, the paperwork, the screens that you're staring at, all the things that you got to stay on top of. People just don't have a grasp of all that goes into that outside of our little silo in our little office.
Hmm.
You know, my my wife is a very patient person, and God bless her, because but we will sit there at dinner, and then I'll sit there. We'll be watching a movie or TV at night, and I'm on this the entire time. Not that I'm on it, but I'm answering emails. I'm sending out messages. I'm communicating what has to be set out. Because if I shut it off at 6 o'clock, let's say I don't have a game that night, and I shut it off at 6 o'clock, when I get back to work at 7:30 the next morning,
Yep.
the monster of work that
Mhm.
created during those hours, I won't be able to get that day done. I mean, people just don't understand the amount of work that
Mhm.
is. I'm very fortunate that I have an associate athletic director, and she does a lot of stuff for me. But it doesn't go away. I will tell you, because I sat on the state association committee. We replace over 70 athletic directors a year. That's a lot. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know. To me, that's a problem
Yeah.
because anybody who comes to Florida and we have this manual that's this thick
Red book.
of bylaws and policies that we have to follow, and most of those are written by the Florida statute. There, it's not the association, but the state of Florida is dictating what we have to do. So we're getting hit all around the place from every angle, and it's just a lot of people just. And then I don't know how some publics. I'm very fortunate that I have never had to teach a class while being an athletic director. I know many public school athletic directors who teach 2 or 3 classes
Half a
and
day.
be an
Mhm.
AD. I
Yep.
just I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how you do that. Um, I just That's amazing.
You're absolutely right. But as you're talking about lacrosse, you made me think of something that I think would be awesome to highlight right now in case anybody else wants to grab this idea and run with it. I would encourage it. But Lenny and I created this thing at our schools we did together, and something I'm super proud of. And I think I might have even mentioned it before on one of our podcasts, but um, something we I would encourage all schools to get their rival, or maybe not a rival, right? Somebody you want to create like a little rivalry with. And what we did was for lacrosse, every year we had a girls and boys game on the same night, so back to back. We'd try to get all of our families there, but we would call it the Super Bowl. Right, perfect timing to talk about this. Called the Super Bowl, Souper. Okay. And that's what we had, a big trophy for it, everything, Super Bowl. And everybody who came got in free if you brought some cans, some canned goods. And then I would call like, we'd call like, the soup drive, wherever our local charity was, they'd come in a truck. Lenny didn't do it the first year. We can talk about that. Because we would take turns. It would be the first year we did it, it was at St. Stephen's. The next year it was at Manatee, and we would go back and forth with it. And we would end up donating, and then whoever won the trophy was whoever donated the most cans. The outcome of the game was irrelevant. It was just who brought more cans. What fans brought more cans and donated more cans? That was the team that won the trophy that year. And then we'd pass it back and forth. The entire time that I was at Manatee, I never lost that trophy. I just want to throw that in there really quick. I've won it every year. But 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 it was great because we did this for the first year. It was Lenny's idea. He called me up. He's like, "What do you think about this?" I was like, "Let's do it." We planned it all, got it done. Marketed it out there. So Lenny has it at his school first off, and Lenny Lenny's sitting there and he's got like some garbage cans ready to go with like some bags for like the cans. But so many people brought more cans than we originally anticipated that he now was stuck with an unbelievable amount of cans at the gate. And they were too heavy in the garbage like cans that he had there to move them. And he was like, "What am I supposed to do with all of these cans?" Do you remember that? It was like
It was a challenge. Not just the amount. See, here's what your school did a much better job than my school did getting the word out, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure your boosters was much more powerful than my boosters. They were bringing in cartons of cans. Each person was walking in with cartons of cans. My parents were walking with 2 cans a person, and you killed us by I think 1,000. And then you have to count every individual can. And I think you crushed us, and that's what goes on the trophy is the can count total.
The can numbers.
It's not the score of the game, but the
Mhm.
can, because we beat you every year in the game. But we could never beat you
Ooh,
in the
don't remember that.
every year. Oh yeah, both sports. Yeah, and we'll beat you again this year too. So, but and then I asked you. Do you remember what you said when I asked you? I said, "Why can't this? Doesn't make sense. My school's very affluent. We should be crushing you in this can count." And do you remember what you said?
I have no idea.
You said your school is so affluent, they eat out all the time. They have no cans at home.
That's funny. What
And then
I
which got me thinking, right, my family's probably owns supermarkets. I should just have that tractor trailer pull up and
Mhm.
dump cans on us.
Yep.
And we did win it your last year.
Mhm.
We did win it that year. And
We
only because I had a couple of families who really bought into it and they went crazy.
I
But
went
it
out to
all
my
goes
with it helps with the school spirit. I went out to my lacrosse practices and I was like, I don't want to lose this. I was like, tell your families, bring cans, bring as many as you'd like. Let's do this. This is all going for a good cause. Like that's the whole point of this, right? We brought the community together for a good cause. We had more people show up to the games than normal. I mean, I think it's a small price for one game where we had to pay for officials and ticket takers essentially. But it's something I definitely love doing. It was a game I looked forward to every year, and it was something simple that created a lot of school camaraderie and rivalry, and I really enjoyed it. So I highly would recommend. Maybe it doesn't have to be the Super Bowl, but something similar. Come up with something along those lines. I think that was really great. The second year, when it was at my school, I learned from Lenny's mistakes, and I called the soup kitchen that we were donating all of the canned goods to, and they came out with a big truck. So as soon as they brought them in, we put it in the truck, and then they took it away at the end of the game. So that worked out much better. But yeah, have a plan for what you're going to do with those cans when you get
Now,
them all.
now, wait a minute, Danielle. You said this was for a good cause,
Hmm.
but you did not want to lose.
Absolutely, it's a win-win for everybody.
Mm.
If I win
It
and
doesn't appear
all,
to me that it was about
mhm.
the
You can take
providing
that
the
out.
food. It was providing your ego with a little bit of another notch of saying, "Hey, we won."
It was both.
Yeah.
Hmm. I'm not afraid to admit that.
Yeah, and in the I think we're doing it now for the seventh year, and we've won it once, the trophy. And the trophy is a soup bowl sitting
It
on
is
top of a platform.
funny.
So and I remember that first year because we had to take all those cans and put them in the back of my truck, and then of course the next morning I'm driving to the local, food place and trying to unload all these cans of goods uh, while their clients are just all trying to get in the back of my truck to get cans. It was quite an ordeal, but it's the trophy itself says something like feeding the hungry through the game of lacrosse.
Hmm.
So but you can do it through any sport. We chose lacrosse because lacrosse had gotten very competitive and not the right way. So this was a one way to kind of just tone it down a little and
And
remember, it's a game.
And we just started lacrosse at my school. In addition to that, there was only two public high schools in our, well, probably, was it two public high schools, not even in our county, but in the entire area that actually had lacrosse. It was not popular at the time, so we were trying to draw a little attraction to it. And he's absolutely right. It got popular for the wrong reasons, and we were just trying to. I don't know. I'm proud of that. That was one of my favorite things we did, for sure.
Mhm.
Hmm. So just thinking outside
I
of the
wonder,
box a little bit.
I wonder if it'll continue. It's going to happen this year because I'm here, but when
Hmm.
I go away, I don't know if they'll continue or not.
Hopefully it
I
will.
hope it
That's
does. Yeah.
hmm yep, for sure. So Dustin, you need a Super Bowl at your school is what we're telling you.
Yeah, I like the idea. I mean, we've got several schools that we're not right across the street, but
Hmm.
we're within 7 miles of some large high schools here in Oklahoma that I think this could be a really beneficial program for so many
Yep.
people.
And with
Not
the
for me
size
to
of
get
your
a
school,
win, not for
I was
me
gonna
to
say,
say I won. I'm not that selfish like some people on this call, but I am all about trying to help our community and help those that are less fortunate, and this is a way to do so.
And with the size of your schools, I would definitely recommend getting those trucks out there so you don't
Yeah.
have to deal with that.
Yeah, well, we may have to have our band pull up their 18-wheelers and those big truck
Mhm.
beds just to make sure that we've
Yep.
got,
Oh,
the
and those
space.
a lot of those charities are so happy, they will come right out. Like, they come right out to your game. I left them in early, they set their truck up, and you don't even have to worry about it as an AD the next day, right? So they're happy, it's a win for them, you don't have to deal with it the next day. So definitely, if you're gonna do something along those lines and go that route, reach out to those communities that you or those, organizations that you plan on donating to, and they will come out the night prior. They will be there ready to help, and then it creates some good I don't know, just some good overall vibe and buzz within your programs.
It's also a good photo op.
It is.
Yeah. And it's a good
You
way to
know,
tell a story. I mean, it's a positive for your athletic program as well that and your kids understand we're giving back and families and fans understand we're giving
Mhm,
back to people that need it. It's
mhm,
not just about the scoreboard, which is important. I mean, we keep a scoreboard for a reason, but at the end of the day, we're trying to help people, and
mhm.
that gives you an opportunity to
Wh
help people.
what we did was on the trophy, it would say, like, SSCS, how many cans, and then, like, MHS, how many cans. So there's actually, like, a tally of how many cans, every year. So that was kind of a fun thing to put on it to look back and be like, "Oh, look how many cans we got this year." And then you can try to always beat how many your school brought. So maybe you don't win that year, but at least you beat, you PR'd, I guess, in your Super Bowl. So yeah, it's just
you're
another
so
fun thing.
competitive.
I
Yeah.
know that. I know that.
But I'm thankful for the idea because I think that's something that hopefully can catch on
Mhm,
in many other places around the country. And I think that's what's cool about this profession. We share. We
mhm,
don't just hold it to ourselves, but we share and want to say, "Hey, this is a great idea." And what I want to do is I want to go on record saying I'm glad that I've been on this call today because I found out who the real mastermind of this is because Danielle would probably try to take credit for this, and we know that this is
no!
not Danielle's idea. Um, so
But you
one,
can you can take this though, like, just think about it. It doesn't have to be Super Bowl stuff, right? Like, it could be the holiday season and it could be a toy, right? It could be, let's say your area needs warm clothes, it's in a colder area. It could be clothing, an article of clothing or as many articles of clothing. There could be a lot of different ways you go with this other than just the Super Bowl.
yeah,
We
and the thought process is just to
Yep.
give back to those that are in need, and I think that's the key that we need to hang on to. Whatever your location is, whatever will benefit those people. You may not need jackets in Florida. I mean, there are times that you're probably not going to need them. In
Mhm,
Oklahoma, you're going to need them.
mhm.
We had some. I said Mother Nature was either drunk or going through menopause here because it was so cold. I mean, we'd do 61 day and -2 the next. So, but jackets may be a good idea here. It could be a variety of things wherever you're at. But
You
it's
know,
a
and
great idea.
Dustin, one of the other reasons to do it is that we get tired of nickel and diming our families because who come to the games, right? It's
Mhm,
it's the parents and the grandparents of both schools, and you get so tired of nickel and diming them and charging them $6, $8 just to come watch their kid play.
mhm,
Um, so this is something that's readily available in the home. They've
mhm.
got canned goods. They just grab canned goods, and it's just a break,
Mhm,
from that. So there's a lot of other reasons to do it, but the feeding the hungry was one. Just toning down the tempo of the game as far as
yeah,
aggressiveness, but also give the parents a break. Have a we do other events sometimes like hot dog night. We give out free hot dogs. We'll cook a couple hundred hot dogs that night and just give them away,
mhm,
because people get tired. They're getting hammered, out in the community, nickel and dime gas prices, everything. And it's just a little way. Plus, it's another way to get people to come to games. It's free hot dog night.
yeah,
People come up and say, "Hey, can I get 2 hot dogs?" Yes, you can. You get one at a time. Go eat your hot dog, come back, get another one. But Some
That's
people
private
make
school
4 or
stuff
5
right there.
trips.
No, that's private school stuff right there. You crossed the boundaries, Lenny.
What was that? Free hot dogs?
Yeah.
Hey, I
I'm
love a
just
hot
teasing.
dog.
Of
But
the three of
like,
us, who's not in the profession anymore, Lenny? Let's just say that.
oh, come on. That's not entirely accurate, but
You know,
okay.
there is a reason that your typical athletic director gets heavier. The longer they serve is because you don't have an opportunity to go eat, and you end up eating a lot of concessions food. And that one item that's readily available is a hot dog. I mean, it's just I'm the hot dog king, boy. I tell you, I can eat a hot dog. I'm hungry now.
Now I want a hot dog. Well, yeah, no, I think something like that's a great idea, and I also think there's something to be said about people just giving. You feel good when you give back, right? I mean, I made sure that I brought as many cans as I could possibly fit in my bag that day, even though I obviously didn't need to pay to get into the game, but that's not the point. The point is we are giving back. I can joke with Dustin about, yeah, I did want to win trophy, absolutely, but at the same time, it's about giving back. So something, we can sit here and talk about our challenges that we have, right? But I think those little victories is also really important to celebrate, and the Super Bowl is definitely one of them in that entire concept. So kudos
Yeah,
to us,
I'll tell
Lenny.
you one of the challenges we have as well is that we're not your typical school. I mean, we say 88% of our kids play a sport by choice. You know, they don't have to do it. They want to represent their school. So about 88% of our kids play a sport, and about 60 something percent play two.
Double.
Many play three. They'll play a sport every season, um, which means when it's game time, there's nobody in the bleachers because all the students are at their training sessions or they're away at their games. So, I wish I had a good answer to how to fill the. So that's why we tried, free hot dog night. But if your school and I hear so many times that the year of the multiple sport athlete is gone. I'm telling you, it's not gone.
Yeah.
I talk to many college coaches, and they'll ask the student, "Do they play club ball?" And then the second question is, "What other sport do you play?" Those are the two questions college coaches always seem to ask. They want to know that you're playing the club ball, but they also want to know that you're well. First of all, you're playing your high school sport. Let me touch on that real quick. We had a young man here, my second year here. He was here for 2 years. I got to know him, and he was recruited throughout the country. He was a great golfer, and he ended up going to University of South Florida. And at that time, they were in the top 25. So that's huge. And he played the whole time he was here for us. Now he had his private swing coach, and he took all his private lessons, and he did that his whole life. But he wanted to represent his school, and he was on our team, and he played every year. And when he told me he was being recruited by the University of South Florida, as I always do, I call the school just to confirm before we do any kind of signing here. I confirm it. And I called the coach up there, and I actually had a chance to speak to him. And I said, "Are you recruiting this young man? I just need to confirm it." And he said, "Yes, I am. Not only am I recruiting him, but he will be my captain next year." And I said, "Coach, you do what you want, but why would you have a freshman as your captain of your team?" And he said, "Because he's the only one that played high school golf. Everybody else just played on their individual tournaments. And so he's the only one who understands team golf."
Mm.
And I thought that was an interesting point because so many times you get your great athletes, your tennis players, your golfers, maybe baseball players, and they don't ever represent their school. And they're missing that component. And so when I'm talking to a lot of college coaches or they come here to speak to our students, that's one of the things that they're going to elaborate on. Play for your school. It's important to be able to represent and give back and not just take. So that's I love that message, and that was from a college coach who said, I won't recruit a taker.
Mhm.
I only recruit givers."
Hmm.
Um, and I just love that terminology, and to me, it says a lot.
Well, I appreciate all of the wisdom you have shared with us here today. All of the pieces.
Oh, yes.
I have. You have been a giver today and you have been sharing them. And hopefully, I really hope people, listen to this episode and it gives them ideas of what they can do in their own school that will be beneficial to their community and really go out there and make it a more fun environment at the game. You're giving back. There's just so many pros to some of the stuff that, you were talking about and some of the stuff that we did together. So, thank you.
Danielle, it sounds like you're wrapping up, but can I just add one more thing that we're going to try
Absolutely.
this year? And I'm sure a lot of schools are doing it out there, but I heard I'm stealing it from another school to honor their teachers
Mhm.
and to get teachers to come out. For every home game, teachers are selected to do the first pitch for every home
For
game,
baseball.
and for baseball and softball.
Okay.
So a teacher will go out there and throw the first pitch. And I think that's a nice recognition by the kids, and the kids choose the teacher. It is funny because if they do that, that teacher doesn't just come for that game. They come for every game after that,
Yeah.
you know. So teachers just, sometimes they just don't understand that they are appreciative. But when you mix it in with the athletic world, it's a nice touch.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. Great call out. I wrote down. Absolutely. Um,
Stealing again, okay.
absolutely. I think it's a great idea. So, for sure, you shared a lot of valuable things today, and I definitely appreciate the time. I know you're busy, right? That's. I'm sure your phone is blowing up. So I appreciate the time that you've given us to share some of these things with today, and I hope you enjoy the last couple months before you ride out into the sunset. So
Literally.
literally.
Yeah.
Uh, Well, I do. I want to thank you for first for your service, for your commitment to the Marine Corps, and how even though they kicked you out for bad knees or whatever, I appreciate your service. So I want to thank you for that too. I want to thank you for your wisdom that you've shared with so many today that can take things and the mindset. The be a giver, don't just be a taker. I used to tell my coaches, don't just come in with your hand out like this. Come in and say, "Here's a solution." I'm not coming to ask you for anything. I'm just coming to bring you something, and that should be a good mindset that we have. I also want to thank you for your service to our profession. Thank you for being in it like you have, and for your commitment. And I know you're running through the finish line. You're not just seeing the finish line. You're gonna finish strong. And finally, I want to thank you for your patience with Danielle,
I knew that
and
was
for
coming.
all the work that you've tried to help make her better. But I just appreciate you taking the time today and for sharing your wisdom, sharing your insight, and making us all better.
Well, I appreciate that. And thanks for having me. This has been a blast. And for all those new ADs out there, don't get discouraged and don't give up. You don't want your kids to give up. You don't want them to quit. Don't be a quitter. But just know that there are other people going through the same thing you're going through. And all you really have to do is reach out. And it makes it bearable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you again. And you now have an invitation, right, to reach out to any of us if you have any ideas or questions. So thank you.
That wraps up this episode. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our sponsor, Wall of Fame, who excels at telling your school stories and supports us in telling ours. Check out the description of this episode for a link to receive a discount on all Wall of Fame products. We are looking forward to the next story and hope you are too.